So welcome to what is the fourth International Geography Teachers webinar. And this is sort of what we're calling the end of the first season, which sounds very dramatic. And, you know, it's all to do with the fact that we're in negotiations with Netflix for a super second season. But hopefully, if me and Matt are in the mood, we'll bring this back in September. But we just need to have a little think about what's working and all that sort of stuff. And I want to spend some of the summer away from my computer. Actually, no, I've been told that I need to spend some of my summer away from my computer. So we're going to carry on with sort of the usual formula that we've had before. We're going to talk about what me and Matt are up to at the minute, what we're working on, what's about to come out on our various sites. And then for the second half, we're going to focus on two things this time. Matt's going to have a chat about some of the IB stuff in terms of this idea of super local fieldwork collection because of the limitations on getting students out collecting data. And I'm going to have a chat about top tips for new IB DP geography teachers. The form was out for the last couple of weeks. We've actually had 30. I probably could have made even more out of what we got shared. Tips from teachers, and yeah, there's some brilliant stuff in there. So I'll kick off just to say that things have been, I wouldn't say they're relatively slow. We've been busy around here, but it's exam season. So I've had my year 12 exams, and therefore I'm really doing revision and things with them and that sort of stuff. So there hasn't been so much on the extra stuff on geography all the way. But what I have been working on, let me sort of show you a couple of bits. The exams have just come to an end, so we're about to start working on the start of global climate change with the students. So if you're doing that at the same time, you'll notice that some of the lessons are getting a bit of a polish. I've been looking at videos on Malalkovich cycles today, if that's how you say it properly. Another bit of news, I suppose, is the IB Geography Podcasts app that I've been working on has now got an additional section with a bit of help from Sarah. I was managed to add the geophysical unit. So I think there's 10 podcasts in there. And let me think what else I'm up to. And just sort of really a bit of a place marker or a placeholder really is that I am working, or one of the things I want to do before the end of term is give my students something called, which I'm calling the Geography All the Way summer menu. So I had to go doing a spring version for what was the Easter break here. And I'm going to do a similar one for the summer. It's still very much in note form, but I will probably build it over the weekend, if not early next week. And what I'm trying to do, or really sort of the theme, is to try to get some geography into the lives of your students by stealth. So there's going to be a lot of a focus on social media and things on telly. So, for example, Instagram-wise, there is what we mentioned during the infographic session, which is this from Information is Beautiful, which is one of the original sort of companies or design houses that did lots and lots of infographics. So they do a daily infographic, which I think is really good for the students to be thinking on, even if it's just a reminder for them that such things exist. There's also, I'm going to come up with a sort of maybe a cleaner sort of list of them. This is a brilliant one on the Sustainable Development Goal action plans, but there's some really nice little ideas of little case studies that can be followed in terms of some of the things here. So there's that. I'm also quite into my Netflix at the minute, as I think everybody is. So there is so much good geography on Netflix. The series called Rotten is absolutely brilliant. I especially recommend A Sweet Deal, especially if you do fresh water and you look at the Everglades, Kissimmee area like I do. Not all of them are. I don't think there's much geography on marijuana laws and getting high on gummy bears, but maybe Matt knows where you can get that into the course. But the Avocado Wars is another good one as well. All these are really good. Then also, it's got an awful name, but History 101. Now, someone needs to have a little word with them about this, and it does pain me to say this, but there's episodes here on fast food, rise of China, plastics, oil in the Middle East, nuclear power, the feminism one. I haven't watched all of these. I've only watched the fast food one so far, but it is super good. So though it will pain you to mention the H word in your lesson, these are rather good. But I'm going to try to get all this together in this sort of a menu, a one-pager that you can share with students in a sort of, it would be great if you did want to do some geography over the holidays, if you spent some time looking at one of these. Matthew, what have you been winding your hours or when you're not running?
Yeah, I've been not doing as much as I was in the previous weeks. Now I have to actually get back in the car and drive to school every day, and partly teach live lessons and partly teach people at home. So that's been taking more of my time than normal. So I'll just quickly share my screen. But the one thing that I tried to react to, I guess, was that there was quite a big conversation on the Facebook support group, which was about the advice, obviously, that came from IB about the sort of continued necessity to conduct internal assessments and to go on field work and to collect primary data, with a fair few people who I think it's fair to say weren't that happy about it. So given the sort of necessity, if you like, to do IAs because of the way that the whole course is structured and the inability to simply sort of rearrange that at 1 year's notice, I thought what might be quite a good thing to do would be to perhaps put into the public domain some sharing of ideas of things that could be done on a hyper-local or local, or even sort of a regional area, depending on where you guys could get out to. So this kind of first draft of the IA COVID plan, if you like, has been launched. And so we've got about 8 ideas so far, mostly from me, but I'm hoping that if I put a bit of a reminder, people will sort of go through and have a look. It's sort of mostly linked to, I guess, urban type work, especially things like the urban heat island effect, some stuff in there that you could use from option A, things like classic river studies, or the impacts of the built environment on the catchment in terms of flooding or flood prevention. And so, yeah, I just once again, if anyone else out there would like to sort of contribute towards that, that would be amazing. If we could get to sort of 10 localish examples that could be adapted, it obviously won't work in every single locality because of our varying location around the world, but something in there that someone could go in who is having trouble and sort of try and cherry pick something and adapt it to their surroundings so they can go out and do the data collection. And just once again, you know, to sort of reiterate, I'm in the same position I was meant to be in Barcelona collecting data for leisure sport tourism. That's been postponed until the 3rd week in September. At the moment, school trips are not allowed to leave the country in France. So at the moment, we're not going, but if that changes over the holidays, we are going. If not, I'm doing a local river study in the Pyrenees. If we're not allowed to take students out down there, then I'm doing a microclimates investigation. Even though I don't teach urban, I will do the kind of background on that, and then we will essentially put together an IA. Not the most exciting thing in the world, but it will tick the box, and I can pretty much make it work. So I've been working on that, and the other thing I've been working on is finishing off these what I'd call IGCSE upskilling units. So this was again in conjunction with Paul over in Brazil, and I've been given 6 weeks with my IGCSE students who had their exams cancelled. This is our last week. This is the 6th week. They should have been leaving at the end of this week. It was their last IGCSE and GCSE exams. And so since last time, the piece of work on superpowers has been done, cultural imperialism, and I finish off the disruptive technology last night, looking at a really interesting documentary on 3D printing of guns in the United States, drones being used to deliver drugs to prisons, and a expert hacker who is being used by law enforcement authorities to kind of hack the hackers, and has made over $1 million out of it, a young guy in Argentina. So that's what we've been working on and getting all those up to date. Other than that, just chipping away and updating various bits and pieces on Geography Pods. And the other thing is, some of you guys will be aware, I've posted it on there, but my grade 11 or your year students, as you might call them, they have an environment group in school, and one thing they have been doing in confinement is trying to keep up with their CAS, because CAS doesn't stop even if there's confinement. And so one thing that's worked really well this year is it's called the environment group, but they concentrate on quite a range of things, and they blog, and they have a sustainable development goal theme, and they blog various news stories linked to that. And they've been doing a really nice sort of nice job of putting together some nice articles, kind of current affairs, current events, and linking those into there too. So I'll post a link to that if you're interested in doing something similar at your place. But basically that's it. A bit of CAS, some IA emergency planning, and some upskilling for IGCSE students who are feeling a bit lost after not having their exams. That's me done.
Okay, brilliant. We've been joined by a couple of other people since we've started. Britta, Emily and Thomas, if you can just drop into the chat box where you're joining us from, that'd be brilliant. Just give us an idea of who is with us and where everybody is. So that would be super duper. So what we'll do is something I did last time, or during the last one, was ask people who top tips. For the idea was for new teachers. This was one of the requests that somebody asked us to do. But what I try to do is really make some things which are a good reminder for all teachers, looking at IBDP geography. So there's actually 30 of them. So we're going to whiz through. If anybody wants to chime in, shout, wave, all that sort of stuff in terms of suggestions or ideas, I've tried to reduce the repetition in terms of them. So lots of people mention the same sort of thing. So I managed to try to cut some of those out. So this is what we're going to do. So let me present that to you so I can show. Where is it? It's over here. And again, these will be, I'm sure, embedded on mine and Matt's site as well. Come on, you should be presenting. It's having a think. Sorry, give it a second. Let's just come on, technicals. Yeah, not like it's my job to be on top of this sort of stuff at school. Give me a second. Let's get that back again. I'm going to blame my partner who's watching television next door, sucking up my bandwidth. But we'll see. Let's try again. Yeah, that's looking better. If I hit the present button, brilliant. That worked that time. Not quite sure why it didn't quite work straight away, but there you go. So I like this one in terms of planning conceptually. So I think this is one of the hardest things that we do, is the pushing the concepts, and pushing the concepts in such a way that it helps people to sort of see the big picture. My big thing about the course, and maybe it's a change from before, is I think there's a lot more breadth and a little less depth. And I'm actually quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with the sort of the big world, the big look, lots of linkage type stuff in the approach that the course takes. But really addressing those concepts and addressing them early on is super useful for the students. I start my course for the DP ones with a lesson on each of the Ps. So I take 2 weeks to really even get started. Now, through each of those Ps, we look at a little bit of course content, and I do a little bit of skills with them. But teach or plan it conceptually, or just make sure you keep coming back to them. I think that is super important. I think this is a big missed opportunity of using your locality, city, country, region as a case study material where possible. Okay, you'll notice that Switzerland keeps coming up in geography all the way. That's because I teach in Switzerland. And the students need to know about their host country and where they are, even if they may not be Swiss. That's why you tend to use Switzerland and try to compare it to other places when I'm doing the case studies or the examples and things like that. I think most of you know this because a lot of the advertising or a lot of the sort of the shout out for this for these webinars comes through it. But join the IB DP Geography Teacher Support Group. If you have got new teachers joining your school, bully them, strong arm them into joining, because I do think there's a lot of useful stuff that gets shared. Even if you don't do the Facebook thing, it might be worth sort of setting up an account, getting in there just for that bit. You'll be surprised how useful it is. And in many ways, it's overtaken the usefulness of some of the IB's provided platforms. But the most useful forum is where the conversation is. And at the minute, it's definitely on the teacher support group. Taking a moment to map it out. If you can map backwards, it's really helpful. If you are in control of what the students do before they join your IB classes, you've got so much power, more power. I'm not saying that you should really do a pre-IB course. Okay, that's less of my sort of style or what I believe in, but you should definitely be laying the foundations. So as they arrive into your DP1 class, they're not suddenly surprised by the idea of power, place, process, and possibilities. We've weaved that already into our year 11s course so that they're starting to hear that language as they come through. You also know there's a list of standard things that you want them to know. I'm not sure if there's still that. There used to be a line, was one of the first lines in the old syllabus, which said there is no need for any prior knowledge of geography to do the DP course. I wonder if, I don't think it's still there, but I've been shown it by a couple of IB coordinators going, this student never done geography before, but you'll be fine, Rich. Crack on. Participating in any local or regional job alikes is really good. And if there isn't one round your way, set one up. And I think if COVID hasn't taught us anything, is that these online things can work and be quite productive. So each year we have, here in Switzerland, we have a day where all the Swiss geography teachers get together. We usually do it just after the exams. We take it in turns to host it, provide a nice lunch, and we get together and people offer some sessions. I know there's a virtual one for the London area is being hosted next Monday. So yeah, there's definite need, and it lets things be, maybe explore some of the more sort of local issues which are going on in the area or support. Yeah, do it, because it's definitely worth doing. Keep up to date with what's happening in the world. I know this sounds obvious, but you need to model lifelong learning to get students fully on board. Yeah, I spend too much time reading the news and then go, oh, that's useful geographically, and then sticking it in some sort of folder to go back and look at later on. And actually, it does keeps your life a little bit easier. So I was just sort of going through some lessons earlier today for the climate change bit, and I'd already stuck some YouTube things in a list that I know when I get back to teaching this, I want to put this in, this, and this in. Always be willing to change your examples, case studies, option units to suit current events and the interests of your class. I think this is important. I wonder if the IB will see an uptake in more people doing food and health next year, or whether actually maybe the kids have been COVIDed out and it's actually better to go nowhere near it. I don't know. I'm some sort of sit somewhere in the middle between those two things. But I do think, and it's one of the reasons I like teaching geography and I like working on my website, is the idea of keeping things fresh and picking, recent examples and, doing that as far as is possible. Charlotte, who works up in Brussels, shared some rather good sort of CAS and enrichment ideas. The idea of setting up a book club to share articles and discussions. There's another one, she comes up a little bit in the middle. Simplify the paper 1 and 2 mark bands. Get your students to internalize them. Remember also the mark bands for the 10 marker in paper 1, paper 2, and the 16 marker in paper 3 are essentially the same. There's just more marks in each category. It's no real major differences. They all involve the AA1, 2, 3, and 4. It's only really that short, the 12 marker in paper 3, which are any different. So yeah, I treat them all in a very similar way, and I treat that 12 marker as a big 6 marker. But I can get to that on another webinar at some other point. Train your students to approach any given map or graph in a structured way. So as soon as they see a graph or the infographic or something like that in the exam, there should be something popping into their mind. David here has suggested PED, pattern extreme anomalies data. We do oh so easy, which stands for something obvious, something specific, and something odd. But everybody's got different things to help the students remember. That's another useful one. Another one from Charlotte here, the idea of setting up a CAS group linked to a subject. So one is the Global Issues Network group, which works for her. But there is international organizations which will help you with this sort of thing. Double dip your case studies. Okay, I love to find a case study that I can use in more than one place. Matt claims he can teach the whole course just through the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Isn't that the claim, Matt? So there is various things that you can keep coming back and using. Sort of depends on the options you choose and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, definitely try to find ones that will be used, you can use in various places. Geo Cake Day, apparently, is a winner, and it's helped some of my students understand a concept and count the making of it as a CAS activity. I personally have never tried it. My son once made a cake which was a cell for biology. I can see similar sort of things working. And Matt has promised to have a whole page of geography pods of cake recipes and things by the end of the year. Get each student to present their geo and or world studies findings to the class. I actually do it rather than sort of at the start. I sometimes do this as an earlier thing where I'll get my extended essay students to try to sell their extended essay to the class, just to make sure they're thinking in the right way. So the class can be like prodding them on, why is this interesting? Why, just try to get the hooks. So that can work well if you've got the time. Do the IA in the first year of the IB. Save so much stress in final year when the students are speaking exams. I saw this one. I agree with Jess that it's finding its niche and where it fits. So the DP coordinator at the school where I work got everybody to write down everything that needed to be done, and she's fanned it out through the year. So actually, the geography IA gets done at the start of DP2. But that's okay because it's after the maths and it's just before the extended essay comes in, all that sort of stuff. That's our little slot, and nobody else should be messing with that, is the plan. And it gets there. We're doing okay with that. But getting it out the way early is definitely a good idea. Find TOK moments in geography by subscribing to theoryofknowledge.net. Couple of things from the author of theoryofknowledge.net pop up if you search for Theory of Knowledge on YouTube. And it sounds really good. It's something I want to explore more next year. It's something that I want to be able to do better, is get more theory of knowledge into my geography lessons. I would love to go on a course on it, but there's a danger if I went on a course on it, I'd come back and find myself teaching a TOK class. Don't want to do that, but I would like to get more TOK into my teaching. So that's the sort of an aim for me. Teach the key concepts for the lesson at the start of each lesson. Put it in student-friendly language. International kids are of varying English ability. Always be conscious of this. Yeah, really think about the language being used, and really sort of, I'm a big fan of this, making it dead clear what we're going to try and do this lesson. And it also helps the students reflect on, at the end of the lesson, if they can't do it, what action or steps are they going to take. Orders of things as well. So this works for Tom at South Bank International. He goes 1, 4, 3, 5, 2, 6. I go, what do? I go 3, fresh water, 1, 2, 5, 4, 5, 6 with bits of overlap depending on how we teach it. Sort of works for you, but you definitely do not need to teach the course in the order that it comes up in the syllabus. Try to create cross topics when you can. So what whether migration coming up here and also then coming up there. It makes it much more real. Follow. I need to go and proofread some of these slides. I did them over. Follow educators on Twitter. Suggestion from Bob. Twitter, Facebook, they have got. There is lots of educators out there sharing some really, really good things. The IB teacher community on Twitter is very strong. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. There will be a great moment halfway through the course when the students will go, "Sir, Miss, can I use what we learned earlier to help answer this question?" Yeah, making sure they get out of this idea of the silos. Stuff that's from paper 1 can be used in paper 2 and should be used in paper 3, because paper 3 is an extension of knowledge. It's not just a separate block on the end. So yeah, push that. Good one from JD there. Read, listen, watch. Keep up to date with the news, current affairs, podcasts, blogs. You'll always find a connection to your learning. Definitely. Podcasts for me. I don't get enough time to read as much as I would like to of books, but there is so many brilliant podcasts out there. Lots from the BBC World Service. Most weeks you'll find 1 or 2 things that you can connect to the course and just connect to your own understanding and interest and things like that. So yeah, definitely keep, however you can do that, it's definitely worth doing. Going through the syllabus before you start teaching, always a brilliant idea. Highlight any similar and overlapping syllabus points, and then decide where, rather than doing them twice, decide where you're going to do them. So sometimes I get my students to write in in big letters in their notes, go and have a look at, I don't know, Unit 4. Even if we haven't done Unit 4 at that point, it's because I've decided we're going to do that lesson there rather than there. I'm not going to do it twice because we haven't got time, because we all know the course is rather busy. Relationships are key. Take time at the beginning of the year to get to know your kids. Make a massive difference later on when things begin to get stressful. I think this is really a good, massively good tip for teachers new to the course. And actually, it's one of the things I've enjoyed about the online learning. It's given that little opportunity as students arrive into a meet to be able to go, "How are you?" And that little insight into the rooms which they're sort of talking to you from. I've had conversations with parents and brothers and sisters. We've had show your pet day, all sorts of things. One girl's cat has even become a member of the class. Do more focused work on infographics to reduce superficial responses in section B. I do think section B is difficult in paper 2. Students don't assume students can already analyze these. I think you need to spend some time teaching those skills. Link up and seek for mentoring with an experienced teacher in a nearby school. So this is Michael, who's just joined us, made this suggestion. If you're new, find a mentor. And I think, again, the fact that we've learned through this lockdown, this global crisis, that the ability to be in contact with each other online, and whether it's your Zooms or your Google Meets or your whatevers you have, or your Teams, finding somebody out there who would happily sit down maybe every couple of weeks and chat things through to you, I think is a brilliant thing. And actually, maybe, Matt, this is something we could give a push to on the group, maybe in August, September, this idea of trying to partner people up with mentors. I think this is something that could be super useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's a Google map somewhere floating around the Facebook support group, and that sort of identifies where people are teaching. So that might be a starting point to get people together.
With onlineness, which isn't a word, by the way, it would be really, really useful to sort of do that, because it could be just need people in a similar time zone. I'm not getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to help myself, let alone anybody else. And you're busy running at that time, Matt, so you can't help anybody. But yeah, we could.
I can multitask.
You can multitask. Right, let's go. We've got 4 to go. Share mark schemes when the pupils talk, pupils through them, get pupils to peer mark, highlight facts and figures. Yeah, definitely. Don't let the mark scheme be a mystery to the students. So I've got a pile of year 12 exams next to me that I should be marking, but I'm doing this instead because this is much more fun. But one of the tasks I will get the students to do when we have a feedback lesson this week is I'll anonymize a couple of bits from some of them and get the students to peer mark. They won't know whose they are and all that sort of stuff because they typed them as well this time because they did them remotely. But then getting, it's a really good process to talk through that sort of stuff. Use the Facebook group, but don't be put off or feel that everybody else knows more than you about the IB and all the weird and wonderful acronyms of EEs, IAs. Was once in a fantastic staff meeting where somebody dropped like 6 of them in a line basically to try to explain something, and it was like someone knew was like stop. But yeah, ask for help and don't be intimidated. I think the Facebook group is a very welcoming place, so please drop in questions. Don't prescribe all case study examples. Allow greater student investment by allowing them to choose a choice. I think that is a key thing within certain parameters. Sometimes I go, right, you can do any example of a flash flood you want, for example. However, it must be, and I usually put a time span on it. It must have been in the last 5 years, and it must have cost, more than $1 million worth of damage. I know, giving them a certain amount of parameters helps them not waste their time. I think it is super useful to give them a little bit of the power there and a little bit, this is when you get students picking some really more interesting examples because that's where they come from. And this is the last one from Tom of geographymonkey.com. Share resources, exchange ideas, and collaborate with peers near and far. No teacher is an island, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. We are all teaching the same course. Okay, so there is Matt's stuff out there, there's my stuff, there's all sorts of different people's stuff out there to give you ideas and stuff. Far too much use of the word stuff in that sentence. But yeah, there's lots to be there to help you. There's no need to be banging your head against the desk. So that's the thing. I think there's some really good stuff in there. I'm going to go through and proofread it again before tomorrow's repeat of this webinar, because obviously there's a couple of bits and bats in there that I completely missed. But there you go. That's my fault. It's been a multitasking week. Anybody got any questions or anything they want to throw in? Matt's dropped some of the links. Okay, thanks, Laura. How many of us newbies? I am. Okay, Jabba likes the best. Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I think this mentoring idea has piqued my interest. See what we can do about that. When would be a good time to kick that off? August. I'm going to write myself a note. Need to have a little read up on how that sort of thing works best. But it's definitely something that we could think about doing. Anybody got anything else to throw in? It's going to make tonight's a little bit shorter, but that gives you more time to go and have a glass of wine or water or whatever your tipple is.
Yeah, I was just going to say really quickly, one thing that I'm going to try and work on, again, in response to some chat on the Facebook support group, is this kind of find a way that we can share some sort of concept mapping, where we kind of hit different areas of the syllabus, perhaps with the same case study or detailed examples. I just need to think of a format that would make that easy to do, whereby, if you could imagine, you might have the actual place, the event, and then around it, the ability to sort of link up the different areas of the course. And, that could be some sort of shared document that, again, we can produce and put together, and people can use it as a reference to see how it can be sort of knitted together, that synthesis, how that could happen amongst the different areas. And the second thing is, there was a chat about numbers and option numbers going down. I didn't say anything in particular on that because actually my option numbers this year. I also thought might be an idea to put some ideas out there about how you can encourage students, the kind of promotion of geography, above history, business, economics, whatever else is in your group 3, and a little bit about how you can use alumni. So students that you've previously had who have studied geography and the whole range of courses they go into, whether they're geographic at university or scientific, or at the end of a lot of mine end up going down a business route, having studied geography and not business studies. So I think the answer to some of those queries really is is something nice, big and visual that you know, pretty much plan out your careers, what sort of careers are related to geography, but also use your alumni, I think, that have gone through and gone off to study some pretty amazing courses in different parts of the world. And it's kind of getting ahead of the game, I think, you know, around options time and making sure that, you know, the geography voice is heard above all else. And, you know, I've got some tips of things that I did in the open evening this year to get those parents, mostly using bottles of wine, actually. That gets the parents in every time. And a display that I do with some wine bottles, and just general literature that you can give to the students that picks out key areas of the course that spike in. So that's the sort of thing I'll be trying to work on and pulling together. But again, at the moment, it's a little busy in terms of my actual work. So I'll be trying to get that together over the summer holidays and get it shared and get people collaborating, which is, I think, what we do best, really.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you, everybody. If there's anything burning questions, I will finish things off about there, which would be good. And then watch this space. I'm pretty sure me and Matt will be back in September time for something that looks very similar to this. But it's a time to go away for the summer and have some time away from computers, have a think about how some of these things can be done and all that sort of stuff. I tend to come up with my best ideas when I'm not trying to think about them, which is slightly annoying. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Always enjoy doing these things. Enjoy the summer. Be good. And yeah, hopefully see you on this sort of thing again. So I'm going to stop the recording.